Hello everyone, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back once again to now round 5 of the Invictus Racing League, powered by good friends at GT Omega and gridfinder.com. Now, Azerbaijan, let's talk. Quite the interesting circuit. It's a street circuit taking you through the streets. Baku, castle section, very well known, very nefarious, has claimed many drivers, and here we are. So let's have a look. Before we get started, before we get stuck in with our qualifying session, let's take a look at the updated grid. So we have the updated grid in terms of our driver lineup, namely the driver changes that have happened at Alpine. So after what did look like two very good showings from Dawid, they have now decided that they are going to leave the league and have been replaced by a familiar face. If you've seen them in our PlayStation leagues, then you will have known them already. See, Jel Gearson, also known as Jelly, has decided to join the PC F1 League, so more than happy to have them. A welcome addition to the Alpine lineup. And that on screen is our updated driver listings. So, a few driver changes around, but before we get stuck into our quali session today, let's talk standings. Now, we saw a pretty interesting race at Suzuka last time round. So, a little bit of on-track drama, a little bit of bumping, a little bit of contact, and a few incidents coming of that race. So certainly an interesting one. But we once again saw the Mercedes with a strong showing of Emir. This is three first place finishes in a row now. So Emir in that Mercedes is just absolutely dominating the field right now. With Lenny in a second place with the McLaren team, also putting on very consistent showing. Very consistent showings indeed. One of the interesting things that we saw, though, from that Grand Prix was, in fact, a little bit of contact and eventually a race ending of Cass and Frederick. Both getting DNFs, both very high up the grid, and certainly is going to challenge their title bid, but put some issues in there. So Cass was having a brilliant early start to the season, so getting a podium every single race, which is something that no other driver had maintained up until that point, and it looked like they were going to continue that streak, but sadly a little incident in Suzuka in the S's put an end to their race, along with Fredericks in the Mercedes, who we've been seeing consistently back up their teammate. So we had the 1-2 in Zandvoort. Looks like they were going to continue that there if it wasn't for that collision. But having a look through the rest of the drivers' standings, so we've got our three-way battle for the title as it stands. I say Emir with a clean 8-point lead, but Lenny is not too far behind, say 38 points, and Cass just 1 point behind the McLaren and in the Aston. Say putting on strong performance after strong performance. They had a bit of a hiccup at Suzuka. Can they pick it up in Azerbaijan here? Following that, say Frederick on 25 points, we start to see a bit of a gap, a bit of a deficit from the rest of the field here. And Yes Lad coming in just behind in the Alfa Romeo, 2 third place finishes. Very strong driver. If they can hook it up, if they can keep it together, Yes Lad is honestly a driver to watch. And I think that we should see more of that good performance here today, as when they've hooked it up, when they've got the drive together and they're in tune with the car and the track, they are a force to be reckoned with, as we can see from the podiums. But certainly one to watch as we go into the racing here today. Following that, say Adam in Ferrari, 22 points. Cameron, the second McLaren driver, doing well. Good showing, 19 points so far. And then we start to see the points trailing off as we get into the DNF territory. Say Jasper, Joshua, LTB, Liam, Moore, Taylor, Coop, and Matt's with a few drivers down the bottom. Say Marcos, as we have Jelly, our latest addition, and then Dawid, say our flash in the pan for our standings. Say made 2 grand entrances, got 2 DNFs, and then that was the end of that. Checking a look then at the constructor standings, Mercedes is still on top, and comfortably so. Even with one Mercedes DNF, it wasn't enough to dethrone the Silver Arrows from P1 in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren are tailing behind, although there is a bit of a gap there. They are tailing behind with 57 points overall, and Aston Martin following shortly behind. Again, the points deficit hit them a lot harder with the loss of their star driver, Cass. They are hit a lot harder with that DNF, so they put them at 40 points, and now are going to have a bit of a struggle to catch up to the rest of the field. Red Bull tailing shortly behind, 28 points, and in a bit of a four-way battle between Ferrari, Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri. They all getting around the 25-point mark and are in a heated battle for P4 in the Constructors. This looks like it could go any way, folks. This looks like it could really go any which way. So, as we are now preparing and heading into the qualifying session, we are going to jump in here and be sure to check us out if you haven't already. If you're looking forward to some exciting racing, be sure to give the stream a like. And if you do enjoy our content that we provide here at the Invictus Racing League, so be that our PlayStation leagues, our PC leagues, realistic performance, or F1, F2, or F3, all are welcome. I say we promote a healthy atmosphere, and you're more than welcome to subscribe, even join in on via our website, irlleague.com. But here we go, as we hop into some of the racing, and we start to get ourselves prepared for our qualifying session here today. So my name is Sappy. I will be your commentator for this evening. So it was a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to commentate on a league like this. And without any further ado, let's get into the action. Qualifying session starts up a bit of a thinner grid today by the looks of things. So looking a little bit thin on the grid thus far. Well, we'll use this time to set up our driver POVs. And here we are ready to see who comes out first. And it's going to be Alpine coming out first. Looks like it's going to be the Alpine of Jelly. Jelly is going to be the first to head out of the pits, so followed by Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes are coming out. As a Mercedes often always coming in with a strong strategy at qualifying, although interestingly we're not seeing both Mercedes come out at once, which is the typical strategy we've seen thus far. And certainly Curate. Oh, there we go. There is the second Silver Arrows. We're going to hop on quickly with the Alpine. So getting the heat into those cold tyres, and in fact using the time to explore the track a little bit. Now these drivers have been practicing hard for this circuit in particular, and that is because of this section coming up here, the castle section. Notorious for claiming all too many F1 cars. So that section, if you want to carry as much speed as you can through there, is a high risk, high reward portion of the track. If you can nail your line and get a good amount of speed through that section as the track tightens up, curves in, then you are set for a good lap. But mistake it too much, carry too much speed, turn in too tightly, and you will surely pay the price with the barriers. Here we go. So we're going to hold on with Jelly here as they go to set the first lap of the session. Going to see just how they handle that Alpine. New environment, new league. How are they going to handle it? Here we are. Very good line. Good line through the first two corners, keeping it nice and tidy. As you can see, these cars and the straighter sections of the track with the DRS are closing in on 200 miles an hour. But we can see just really clean lines from Jelly here as they really maximize as much of the track as they can. getting the absolute maximum track width. You can tell these drivers have been practicing hard. So here we go, so taking as much of the inside as you can, skipping a bit of the curve, heading into the castle section. So very good execution there. There we are, very good second sector. Not sure what is going on with one of the AlphaTauris, who seem to have stopped at turn 2, essentially waiting for their teammates. It looks like they're setting off again. Potentially looking for the toe between them. However, here we go. Jelly is going to set the benchmark for this session so far as we close in on the start-finish line. It is going to be a 1:39.009. Pretty good benchmark from the Alpine here. Very good driving. As we take a quick look, say Frederick is going to say 1:38.6, immediately break that threshold. Jeremy with a 1:46.2, you're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit. The Ferrari also looks like they had a bit of a nightmare, so with it coming through above the 150 mark, it looks like they had a proper nightmare. And then is Amir with a 1:38.4. So Mercedes, in typical fashion, have scored a very good banker lap in qualifying thus far. There you go, going to hop on now with Jim Clarkson, who is going to be going for another flyer following their interesting first lap. 1:46, they're going to have to really pick up the pace on that. Frederick doing very well, respecting that other drivers are on a flyer. Good on-track etiquette shown. But you can see how Jeremy has to adjust their steering and really just tweak their line there. Oh, bumping a bit of the wall, a bit of contact. That might be some end plate damage. But the castle section is one of commitment. In this league, and with a competition as fierce as this, you really have to commit, show a little bit of bravery, especially through the castle section, where you haven't got much room to play with. You have to pick a line, stick to it, commit to it, and if you nail it and set it up perfectly, you can keep it straight through the latter half of the section. However, it's all about that setup. So here we go. So Jeremy looks like they're setting a much better lap this time. It's still only going to be a 1:41.5, which leaves them at the bottom of the banker laps, but I'm sure that is going to improve soon enough. As we quickly hop on, we're going to... a bit of a bug there, apologies. Going to hop on now with the AlphaTauri that is on a outlap and flyer now, even, correction. You can see really sending it. So there we go. So he's going to be in the wake of his teammate. So they're going to be coming out of the way. Good respect shown. So Liam absolutely flying through that section, making it around his teammate nice and cleanly. As we come to the start-finish straight, what is the AlphaTauri going to set? Is it going to be able to beat Amir? It's not. It's going to be a 1:39.094 though. Very good position. Puts them in 4th place so far as we come up to the halfway threshold of the qualifying session. There we go. There is another time set. Take Joshua there, and Morwell setting a 1:39.775. So far, we're seeing a definite gap in pace, say the two Mercedes in the 1:38 range, comfortably so, where the rest of the grid has yet to break into that margin. We're going to briefly check in though. In fact, on Jasper, say the Red Bulls, Red Bull been looking to pick up the pace a little bit here. Not been doing so hot as of late. Had a little bit of drama going in at Suzuka. Hopefully they can get a good race out of Azerbaijan. Looks like it's going to be an abandon at least for some drivers on the track. But good etiquette shown by Jasper there. And in fact, if we quickly check on Frederick, who is coming up to their outlap, you can see them starting to push, getting the heat into those softs. Really trying to work that compound. Interestingly, Cass has left the session without setting a time. Interestingly enough. There we go. We're going to see just how the Silver Arrows does it here in qualifying in the Baku. DRS opening right about now as we cross 200 miles an hour. See the blistering speed of these machines here. And this is the start of the flying lap. You can see really maximizing the lines there, getting a little bit on the curb but keeping it very tightly held together. Absolutely taking every inch that they can to just shave those hundredths of a second. Good commitment. To say it sounded like a little bit of contact with the wall, just a brush. So be careful of that. Overall, brilliant first sector. 2/10 up on their previous. Brilliantly done thus far from Frederick. Sounded like I got a little bit of a traction brake on the rears. A very good commitment through the castle section. Taking a clean, sweeping line, really maximizing the track. Going full width on track limits. But not exceeding them, so really good driving from the Silver Arrows. As we come up to the end of Sector 2, it's going to be a 3/10 reduction, and in fact it's going to set the fastest S2 of the session. Here we go, as we head through here. What time is the Mercedes driver going to be setting as we cross over the DRS threshold? Cracking 202 miles an hour is going to be the fastest lap of the session with 1:38.265. Brilliantly done from the Silver Arrows here today. In fact, we're going to check on the Ferrari here, who has gone on, interestingly, onto the medium compound of tyre. An interesting choice for the qualifying session. Potentially they could be looking at an alternate strategy. If they're starting on the mediums for qualifying, we could potentially see some variations in strategy of the race rather than starting on the softest. Here we go, so 3 seconds slower than their top time, getting a bit shaken up over the curbs there, so not looking good so far this lap for the Ferrari. May potentially be looking at going out and setting another flyer and just focus this lap on getting heat in the tyres, optimizing them for the following run. Get a little bit tail happy through the castle section. As you can see, taking it relatively easy, getting the heat worked into those mediums. Being the harder compound, it takes a lot more effort to work the heat into the tyres here. Here we go, this is the start of the charge for the prancing horse as we head down to the start-finish straight. So are we going to see an improvement of time from Adam? So they're on the medium compound, they're already fighting an uphill battle. Hopefully we can see some magic happen just like we saw in Bahrain in the real life weekend. Okay. As we come to cross the line, good line through there. Very good line. Now, if they're not careful, they're quickly going to be coming into the dirty air of the Alfa Romeo ahead of them. So hopefully that Alfa Romeo is also on a flyer and doesn't mess it up, because if they come into the zone of the Ferrari, their lap is essentially abandoned thanks to the dirty air. cutting it a little bit deep there, getting a bit deep on the curbs, getting a little bit airborne on the front corner of the car here. We come to the castle section. Good commitment, having a little bit of a counter correction, counter steer, but keeping it held. Oh, very sideways there from the Ferrari, but very good car control showing, keeping it all held together despite. Looks to be, though, another abandon. So we are going to head on now with Morwell, who is on their outlap and about to set a fresh time for themselves on the soft compound as we head round here. A good line, not crossing over the curb. Interestingly, so they could have maximized a bit more of the track there. Potentially playing it safe. Morwell's in an interesting position. So their teammate Cass has retired from the session, citing technical issues, and is now going to the responsibility is now going to fall on Morwell to get a good qualifying position for Aston Martin, push them up in that constructors fight, and keep themselves clear of the other teams. But it's a good line. Yeah, not taking too much of the curb, keeping the car nice and stable. Very good through the intro to Sector 2. So come to the castle section. How are they going to set themselves up? Very well. A bit of counter steer, but held it together very well through the castle. And you see really carrying the speed. Is just the bravery on show from these drivers here today as they send it through the blind corners. There we go. It's looking good for the Aston Martin here. What time are we going to be seeing on the time board? Up to the start finish straight. It's going to be close. DRS is open. Not quite breaking, just breaking 200 miles an hour. It's going to be a 1:39.074. Brilliant time from Morwell, putting them in 7th place. As we get to the last section of qualifying now, so coming up to the last 2 minutes, if any drivers want to get their times in, now is the time to do it. This is where things get interesting. Are we going to see a little bit of desperation from some of the rest of the grid? So like Jeremy, LTB, Adam, who are really going to want to improve their lap times if they have any chance of a good qualifying spot. But we see a comfortable half of the grid now has crossed into the 138 territory. Brilliant driving on display from the entire field here today. And this is just qualifying. With a track that commits and commands such bravery, we're already seeing some brilliant displays. We are going to head on with LTB here, who is on a flyer on the medium compounds. They maybe didn't have time to change tyres, but they are on a mission. This is a Red Bull on a mission. They're back of the field. Only driver remaining on mediums. Don't have time to switch to softs at this point. They need to set a time, and they need to set it now. Here we go. So coming up to the castle section, you really see them pushing. Is Amir staking their claim to P1 and pole position by the looks of things with a 138.129. I see that being almost insurmountable unless a miracle happens on track. So we go LTB committing hard and committing well, starting to come into the toe, into the dirty air of Cameron in the McLaren just ahead of them. All getting very out of shape there, but kept it together, managed to hook themselves back onto the track, although that looks like it may not be the one. But if they cross the finish line in time, they may have a second chance. And it looks like it's going to be the case as we come down the start and finish straight. They're going to be having a second chance. But no, they're going to go into the pits. They're not going to have time. He's not going to have time to set another lap. He is going to be last on the grid for qualifying here today. Let's say Frederick staking the claim to second place and retiring from the session as drivers finish up their quali laps now. The level of push is going to be now or never. So this is where we see drivers pushing to the absolute limit. We've yet to see any incidents in qualifying. So very, very good etiquette shown from the drivers. A good control, keeping it clean thus far. Zero issue. Good line from the AlphaTauri, keeping it all very sideways, though, just as I say that. Sideways again is going to be a spin from the AlphaTauri of Joshua there. That is going to be their quali charge over, and that is going to be them committed to their position on the grid as the rest of the drivers pass them by. But we are going to hop on with their teammate Liam here as we come through. Okay, what time are they going to set on the second sector? It's going to be over a second slower. This isn't going to be it for them. This isn't going to be it for AlphaTauri. Say, not having the biggest stroke of luck here with qualifying thus far. There we go. You can see them peel off, getting out of the way of the Ferrari, and that's going to be quali done and dusted for AlphaTauri. And for Ferrari, seeing a 139.357 is going to see them, while still a respectable time, it's going to seat them in 11th on the grid here. And now we wait for the last McLaren to cross the start-finish straight. And there we are. That looks to be qualifying over. So your standings. Mercedes, not a 1-2, interestingly. That is going to be Cameron breaking up the Mercedes 1-2 with 138.216. Brilliant shown. Brilliant driving on display. And it looks like there's going to be still some cars on track. And there we are. That is qualifying over. Up for retent. Gonna get a third run because of a crash. Yeah, shame. It happens. It happens. So brilliant driving shown regardless. Up 3 tenths, yeah. But here we go. Can we see the standings? That would be lovely. F1. It would be lovely if we could see the standings for qualifying here. Handling of the car is very different. PC is so different. So there are some slight... Oh, apparently we're not going to get qualifying results. In fact, though, what we can do is very quickly just open up the backup. So we have Amir, Cameron, and Frederick taking up the podium positions here. McLaren breaking up the Mercedes 1-2, and then we had the Alpine in 5th of Jelly, so still very good showing there. Jasper and Red Bull 4th place, Lenny in 6th place, the McLaren of Lenny in 6th place. Yes Lad in the Alfa Romeo 7th, Joshua AlphaTauri 138.8 in 8th. Morwell just not quite hitting into the 138 yet. With the Aston Martin in 9th place, Liam in 10th with a 139.094, and then you had Adam and LTB in medium compounds, interestingly enough, but with a 139.357 and a 139.653. Here we go as we set up for the race here today. We're going to look at a stops tire. We're going to have a look at tire data. Game is saddening. Loading setups is poor. There is issues. There are definitely issues that need to be addressed with, let's say, setups. It's a shame it's not worked out. But here we are. We are on the formation lap as drivers get their cars ready for some intense race running here today. So if you have yet to check out our partners, say GT Omega and Grid Finder, say brilliant partners, always a pleasure to work with them, and be sure to support them. They support us, support the people that support the IRL. And if you're new here, I am Sappytron. I will be your commentator for this evening. Always a pleasure to be commentating these sort of leagues. and we should be seeing some exciting racing getting underway here in Azerbaijan as we come to round 5 of the Invictus Racing League, the 14th season and counting. You're going to see a bit of a gap forming in the formation. Here we go. Drivers are lining up, ready to get some racing underway. Here we go. We're all lined up on the grid. So it looks to be a 2-stop race this round. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it is lights out and we are away. Let's have a look at how these drivers get away. It's a very good getaway from Emir. Say big three. McLaren, big send on the inside. Jeremy getting all the way up to 4th. Let's say the Alpine and Alfa Romeo getting dropped right behind. Let's take a look quick at the McLaren here now. So tailing on the Red Bulls. I say a big fight happening around the back of the grid. Say Ferrari of Adam looks to be making a big send around the side of the field. It's deep, it's going deep. Is there going to be contact? There's contact made between Adam and the Red Bull of LTB. Are they going to hold it together? So again, contact again made between themselves and Warwolves. So Red Bull getting a little bit argy-bargy here. Going to have a little bit of every which way as the drivers start to settle into their grid positions, but no one is yielding an inch. Cass charging from the back of the field on mediums is going to be an alternate strategy from one of the Aston Martins and also the Ferrari and one of the Red Bulls, looking to potentially make it a one-stop, which will certainly be interesting. They'll have to pray that they don't see any safety cars that get in the way of their strategy. But into the Mercedes has spun. Frederick has spun. What has gone on with the Mercedes here? And the AlphaTauri looks to have front wing damage. What has happened here? What has happened to the Mercedes? We'll have a look. A big gap has broken out between Cameron and Emir, but Jeremy, the McLarens are holding very strongly around the middle of the field, or in fact in the front of the field is where you expect them, around the middle, but they've done extremely well, holding out 2nd and 3rd place. Gonna quickly, what has happened? Jelly has hit the wall and retired. They have smashed into the wall. It's going to be a VSC as they absolutely smashed into the wall on the outside, no less. Not sure what's happening there. Drivers are making no hesitation though. They're all going into the pit lane. This is lap 1 here, folks, and we've already seen some insane drama going on here. No shortage of drama whatsoever. We're looking to see a lot of the drivers are taking the opportunity to switch the mediums. I think they're all having a similar strategy of potentially making this a one-stop race, taking the pace deficit from the difference in compound and just banking it. But 2 people who didn't do that are Emir and Cameron. They opted not to save their stop, not to gain a free pit stop, and stick out on the soft. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It'll certainly be interesting to see how it plays out here in Baku. A soft tyre on a track like this, with a track known for being aggressive on its wear rates. Certainly be a game of tyre management for these 2 drivers, and they will have to make up that stop somewhere. Being on the softer compound means they will have to come in earlier, potentially sacrifice the lead that they do have. As we have a look down further in the field, we're going to have a quick look at Adam there, say behind LTB as they head through the castle section, keeping it very tight, although Adam just did get a little bit sideways. Caught it nicely, though. Looks like we are back up to race speed now. Dive bombing. If there was any foul play, be sure to notify the marshals. There we go. DRS is now enabled. If it wasn't clear before that we're back on race conditions, it's definitely clear now. So yeah, Adam is within the DRS range, so might be looking to make a move into LTB as we head down the start and finish straight here. Getting the toe as well as the DRS. Open it up now. They opted not to. They just maybe missed the detection zone. Regardless, they're going to try and close that gap here to the Red Bull. Not taking the widest line, losing themselves a bit of time from a correction. Potentially sent it a little bit too deep. But there we go. There is the DRS kicking in. And that is the Ferrari going to attempt to make a clawback. It's only just starting to close the gap. It's not going to be enough to make a move just yet. Looks like also a little bit of lockup, as you can see just from the driver's movements and from the lines that they are taking, that they are absolutely pushing at the maximum. On the very edge of grip, you see the partial lockups on the wheels. Really just, these drivers are trying to absolutely maximize the grip that they've got and close the distance as quick as they can. Although Adam is having to fight in the dirty air in these circumstances, and it's not playing out well for them. Again, getting a little bit shaky coming out of the castle section, potentially sending it a bit too hard in trying to keep up with LTB and make up for that dirty air here. So we're going to take a quick look at Jeremy here. Say Amir in the clean air and say a 142.445, although we may see that drop over the course of the race as we have other drivers on other compounds and also assistance from the DRS. Here we go. That is going to be DRS deployed for the McLaren. Moore's going to go to the inside, going to try and defend, but it's not going to be enough. The DRS is just too strong. They're going to hold the inside line, though. Are we going to see a move done? That is a move done brilliantly by the McLaren. Moore certainly will be a bit annoyed after that one, but might look for the retake. DRS is open for the Aston Martin. Going to try and break the toe, the McLaren is going to the inside and then back out again. Moore's going to peek around the inside. Isn't going to go for the move, however. They're not going to go for it. They stay firmly behind. They know how risky it is, especially defending and fighting going into this section. If there's any fights to be done, they want them done by the time they get to the castle, or they are not having a good time. Although, speaking of fighting, we have a look at Yeslad up in 5th now, who is chasing down the Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Brother and sister team locked in arms, keeping the Italian firmly behind them. Looks like you're going to have their work cut out for them in the Alfa Romeo here. They go chasing them down round the back of the circuit and heading into the start-finish straight here. Quite the gap has grown, though, however, between Amir and Cameron, as they're looking at almost a 4-second gap. So really, Amir maximising the track and the clean air to essentially run in quali trim. That is essentially what they are doing here today. They're running in a clean air. They got the circuit practically to themselves, and it's paying dividends in terms of their pace. There we go. So we've got the DRS open, but Jasper has also got the DRS. Looks like they're going to make a move on Joshua. Going to get it done, getting the inside, but Joshua is far from done that. You can see just how close the two drivers are, and DRS is about to re-engage. And there we go. It's the AlphaTauri and the Alfa Romeo both heading down the second straight just after turn 2. Is Joshua going to make a move? Is he going to go for it? Nope. Gets covered off by Jasper. Brilliant defensive driving from the Red Bull here. And we can show you racecraft next week. Sure, Jelly, I look forward to it. I definitely look forward to it. So you showed very strong pace in quali. Shame we couldn't see more of that in the race. Although the Alfa Romeo is going to smash into the wall, though. Are they getting any front end plate damage? Looks to be okay. Looks like they managed to dodge a bullet there. No visible front end plate damage as far as we can see. And so far, drivers doing extremely well to keep it clean. Gonna quickly hop on with Emir. You can see that Cameron has pitted, and Emir is essentially in their own race now. They're running the soft compound of tyre. Although what has happened to Liam, looks like they completely lost it in the castle section. Not really sure what happened there. We had a brief yellow flag flash up for Sector 2, but it doesn't look like it amounted to anything major. So they're running in 11th place right now. Adam right down the back has switched to the hards already. Interestingly enough, they're already on the hard compound of tyre. An interesting choice, as they might be looking to eke out the hardest compound into a one-stop race. However, they have to contend with the grip deficit. Cameron, though, going straight back into the pits again. Not sure really what they are doing here. Are we potentially seeing more drivers go to the hard compound in order to stretch it? Considering that they've barely got much of the life out of their current tyres. It's certainly a curious sight, although that may have also been for damage potentially. We're going to quickly hop on with Yeslad here, so back to the fight for second place. And it is going to be, once again, it's going to be Joshua and Yeslad here in a heated fight in the battle for second, coming up to the castle section. We're going to see it kept clean. Good commitment from the drivers here. Nicely done. Oh, very good catch from Yeslad, almost completely binning it, but that sideways rotation has cost them time, and they may fall out in the DRS range later in the circuit if they're not careful. See Jasper and Joshua starting to pull away a little bit of a gap. Still within the DRS range. However, it is an uphill climb for the Alfa Romeo driver right now. And not only that, but they are going to be on the defense from none other than Jeremy. Although, having a look, it looks like the Ferrari had a bit of an issue, and they're going to hit the wall again, getting big damage. And we're going to see a drag race going down the start and finish straight from Jeremy and Yeslad. Jeremy has the inside. They're going to hold. They're going to commit. And Yeslad is going to have no choice but to tuck behind the McLaren driver. Brilliant racecraft, to say good use of the DRS. However, we might see Yeslad on the retake as they have DRS enabled, but so does Jeremy. And we see a big DRS train beginning to form here, from second all the way down to what looks like 6th place. And we'll maybe just be on the cusp of the DRS detection. Getting very close to contact there from the McLaren. Luckily just managed to dodge that bullet. Adam is not having a good time at all. Not only were they on the back foot from using the hard tyre, they're also now having to pit to repair the damage to their Ferrari. Really not a good race for the prancing horse thus far. Here we go, so they're going to stop and head back in with Yeslad now, with the Alfa Romeos. They've got a perfect view of the rest of their drivers and the rest of their targets here. Sounds like a little bit of contact there with the wall just brushing it. Now drivers have to be very careful. This track is notoriously unforgiving. There is no gravel traps, there is no extra runoff, there is only a concrete barrier standing between your race line and your ending of a race. So what's happening with Adam? Again, getting a little bit out of shape through Sector 1, not having a good time by any stretch. Yeslad having the DRS, what is going on? It's going to be a big shake-up in the order as Emir now pits for the medium tyre. They've run their life of the softs, and now on a fresh set of mediums are going to be rejoining the race order and quickly looking to charge back up. You see a gap, too big of a gap is growing between the Alfa Romeo and the rest of the field here. In fact, we're going to quickly jump in with them now. So Jeremy, although Cameron in the medium compound. Again, we are seeing what we call the one-lap wonder here. So Cameron with a 141.5 on the medium compound of tyre. Brilliant pace being shown from both McLarens in very different ways. but still very good pace nonetheless. We've seen Cameron almost turn into a little bit of a one-lap merchant, as while they may not necessarily be on the top flight throughout the duration of the race, they have been known to come with a resurgence and take the fastest lap point. Very strong driving thus far. But so far it is going to be Joshua who's holding the lead of the race. Now keep in mind though, there are going to be other drivers who are on the different compounds, namely Frederick on the soft compound is going to be looking to pit in the next couple of laps, and that is surely going to affect their race strategy over at the Silver Arrows pit crew. But here we go, as we head down the start finish straight, the DRS train is going to begin once more. Jasper looking to close the gap on the sister team car of Joshua here. Not quite going to be enough as of yet, but they have a second chance. They have the second DRS zone. Jeremy is also going to get the DRS, but it doesn't look like the Alfa Romeo is going to have it. You see that gap just slowly growing on the timesheet. They are well and truly out of contention, and now Yes Lad is going to have to be in a heated battle with none other than Moore in the Aston Martin, doing a solid job fighting the Aston Martin fight. And now Yes Lad is going to have to respond to that move in some way. And speaking of the Aston Martin drivers, Cass has done very well thus far to get back to 8th place on the hard compound of tyre and essentially recover from where their qualifying was marred by issues. Doing very good recovery drive thus far from an iffy start here in Azerbaijan. So here we go. We'll quickly have a look at the McLaren here, as they are really looking to be chasing down that Red Bull at this point. They are doing a brilliant job. However, it's going to be Emir. We're going to quickly hop on with them now as they look to be chasing down the Alfa Romeo of Yes Lad. It's just going to get the raw pace advantage over them, a bit of an ERS deploy, and now the DRS is going to open. It's going to be a two-pronged attack on the Aston Martin. The Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes are going to get it heading into turn one. What a change-up. What good racing from three drivers. Emir is up into 4th place. Brilliant driving being shown here. Frederick is going to head into the pits now and is going to change to the medium compound of tyre, so as the last soft runner. We may potentially be seeing here a 2-stop. So Liam is going to get potentially track limit warnings. We may see those overturned by the stewards, however. And we check in briefly with Jeremy, who is within 2/10 of the Red Bull now. This fight at the front of the pack has been raging for several laps now, and it doesn't look like it's going to be cooling down anytime soon. Through the castle section, these drivers are in a flow now. They are keeping it very clean. They're keeping it consistent. But that exit to the castle section is proving difficult for a lot of drivers here. It's for sure proving rather difficult. We're seeing a lot of cars getting a little squirrely, a little bit sideways even. That's going to be the McLaren hitting the side, potentially incurring a little bit of damage to their car. Not what you want to see from what otherwise is a really good podium fight. So here we go. Did they get any damage? It didn't look like they visually got any. They're going to be making a charge on the Red Bull. They're going to be getting ahead. DRS is open for both drivers. It's going to be a drag race heading into turn one. Joshua is in the crossfire. Amir is going to set the fastest lap as well with a 1:41.1. But Jeremy is going to lock in the move against the Red Bull. It's brilliant driving from the McLaren here. They are in second place, but can they hold it? Jasper is going to be looking to get the retake, but Jeremy also has the DRS also. They're going to be chasing down Joshua in the AlphaTauri. And now the fight begins for the McLaren to close that gap. Again, Cameron pushing into the 140s now on the medium compound and setting brilliant one-lap pace. You can tell that they are on a mission. That McLaren is always on a mission to make up time and race to as far ahead in the pack as they possibly can. But what we are potentially seeing now is, if we check in with the Silver Arrows here, we're going to be looking at a pretty spicy battle, as Emir has done brilliantly to charge back up to the front of the field from pitting and not getting a free pit stop from the VSC. It's going to be a Sector 1 incident. What's going to be happening there? It looks like the Red Bull lost it and span potentially. As we hop back in with the Mercedes. Now, Emir say doing very well to run on the softs, not bank a free pit stop, is going to be on the hunt down now with their rivals in the Red Bulls, the McLarens and the AlphaTauris. As we head down here, say it's over 200 miles an hour on the straight, and that's before DRS. You can see the speeds that the Silver Arrows car is hitting, 207 miles an hour peak. They must have worked magic with their setup here. As we see a purple Sector 3. It's going to be a double overtake potentially. They're going to hold the inside, but Joshua's going to commit and do very well to hold their line against the Mercedes assailant. But they're going to also go on the second charge with the DRS and the what looks like to be low drag setup. They are really pushing, getting a little bit squirrely, however. They managed to hold the move. They managed to commit. Emir stating their claim to second place in this battle so far. And who are they looking up next? Then Jeremy in the McLaren. What a charge. These last few corners have been an absolute charge for the Mercedes. You can see them peaking, potentially trying to make a move for the castle section, but opting to play it safe and not go too risky. And as we head through the section, we see it kept clean and looks to be all the same for the other drivers also. Relatively without incident, that section has been. We've seen it, in fact, a lot on turn 3, interestingly. We've had a few incidents, a few overcorrections, a few lockups. One of the last places you potentially expect. But here we go. Emir is peeking up around the side of the McLaren, looking to see what moves they can make as they head to the start-finish straight. The low drag and now the DRS as they pass through the detection zone is going to pay dividends to the Silver Arrows. As a DRS opens, the move is practically sealed. They are charging ahead, and that is the Mercedes in first place. Brilliant driving all round, although not to be said that it's done yet. It's going to be a big battle. If we look at Jasper's POV going through turns 1 and 2, as the DRS train opens up now. A little bit of a battle going on. Say Jasper is on the attack, looking to be peeking up the inside. It's not going to get it done. And if we check down further down the field, so we have a quick peek. Speaking of McLaren drivers, it's going to be Yeslad now, who's going to be peeking up, potentially making a move. Cameron making contact with the wall and going to go defensive, going to go on the inside. But Yeslad is having absolutely none of it. They have the DRS, they're going to be pushing ahead, and they have sealed the move against the second McLaren driver, although they would not without a little bit of wall contact also. I know, some brilliant racecraft, some real strategic racing going on here, up and down the field. You can see drivers all on different stages of their race, and we check in on Frederick here. You can see they're locked in a fight with LTB, who is on a compound disadvantage. It looks to be a little bit of contact, a little bit of bumping. And they are going to, interestingly, they're going to dip back. They are going to yield in this scenario and let the Mercedes through. Potentially they incurred damage from the minor battle there. We did see a lockup going through turn 3. And Frederick, in fact, getting a little bit shaky, uncharacteristic of the Silver Arrows, having to correct slightly for the too much turn-in. We can see just how much speed they're trying to carry, minimizing their turning in lines as best they can. Although what has happened to Jeremy in the current, they're going to be swapping the front wing. They incurred damage. They incurred front wing damage at some point during their last lap. And they're having to come in for it. And it is certainly not the setback you want, considering just how far ahead they were running throughout the rest of this race so far. But now they're going to have to be on the charge back up to try and redeem some of their positions as we come across the halfway point. And as we come around the halfway point, so we can see one of the big standouts in terms of stoppage is, say, Frederick in 9th place. They have 3 stops to their name, so they will have to certainly be on the uphill charge, just like some of the other drivers on the grid. And if we take a look at some of the fastest laps here, we can get a feel for the pace. They say Cass, interestingly, has not really been on pace, where all of the other drivers are on the 40s and 41s. Cass is on a 43, but it's their strategy and their consistent driving that has so far put them in 5th place on the grid here today. And that has something to be said, that it's not always outright pace that wins the race. There is always things like strategy. Random things can occur. VSCs, full safety cars, yellow flags. Anything can happen in an F1 race, especially an unpredictable and unforgiving track like Azerbaijan. So here we go. So we'll hop into 3rd place quickly. We're going to take a look at Jasper, who is going to be trying to close the gap and make a move on none other than Joshua. That's the fight between the brother and sister teams has been brewing over this entire race distance, and it's not going to be cooling down. We are not going to see a calm resolution to this fight, I don't think. The gap is closing, but it's not enough to make a move for the Red Bull quite yet. But as we look ahead, we can see Emir again in the clean air and with fresher rubber than the other 2 chasing behind them. They are really just running away with it. They have the gapping, they have the pace, and it's just a case of what their tyre strategy resolves to. With their current position, they could be looking at a soft tyre finish. They could be looking at a potential 2-stop and trying to go for the fastest lap point as well. So be sure to stick around, don't go anywhere. Like the stream if you haven't already done so. Shows us that you like content, like what we're doing here. But here we go. Start, finish straight. Drivers picking up speed, sending it as much as they can. Jasper's trying to get a good run. Looks like they've done so. That gap is slowly waning, and it's only going to get smaller as the DRS officially kicks in, crossing the 200-mile-an-hour barrier. Is it going to be enough, though? That gap is closing, but it's not going to close fast enough. You can see them slightly backing off. They're going to have to, again, they're going to have to tuck in behind the AlphaTauri. They can't get that move done. They can't quite get it done yet. And even with the DRS on the 2nd straight, they are not going to get the retake. They can peek around the inside all they want, but the retake is just not happening. It's too risky. It's too much distance. And we have a quick check-in with Yeslad in the Alfa Romeo. Is in a very similar position. They're trying to chase down Jeremy. We saw that they switched positions over the start-finish straight, and the McLaren is holding that position with all their might, tucking a little bit to the inside just as a safety measure. And Camera with a 1:40.2. Again, not letting that fastest lap point go to just anyone. We've really seen variations in driver strategies. So Cameron absolutely blistering over a 1-lap distance, but it's just the incidents they find themselves in. It's the consistency that is really bringing them down. Okay, a bit of an over-rotation from the Alfa Romeo is going to set them back in their quest as we head through Castle. Coming out of it unscathed. Are they going to get a little bit slippery? Nope, they keep it under control as they exit the Castle section. And they're going to be just outside of the DRS detection. That McLaren is going to get away from them unless they do something now. But I don't think we're going to see it happen. It's not going to quite be there. With that being said, they've got a good run. They closed it to around, it's hovering just around the 2nd mark. And we can see a battle that is really heating up ahead. You can see the McLaren is peaking in and out. We're going to quickly check in on them now. They've got the DRS on the Aston Martin of Cass here. They're going to go for it. They're going to seal the move. Great driving from the McLaren. The good setup really didn't give them an inch. As soon as DRS was open, the move was made. And even with DRS from the Aston Martin, the retake is not going to be there. They've got a really good run, and their gap is going to be too large to close up. Especially with Cass now on 14 lap old hards. That grip and compound disadvantage is simply too big to compensate for. Brilliant racing on display here from some of our drivers here in the Invictus Racing League. And we're going to swap over to the back end of the grid where LTB is running hard and is trying to catch Cameron on 3 lap old mediums. We see a lot of people try to use that section for a retake of the position. If they get DRS overtake on the start and finish straight, that second DRS zone is where we see a lot of drivers try and reclaim their territory before they head into the tight left and right handers and the castle section. But we're not seeing much of that here. So what we're seeing is drivers getting a really good run with the DRS and just closing the doors, so getting too much of a gap away. And LTB is going to over-rotate just a little bit. Them practically being in their own race on the back of the grid. And we see here Emir, although interestingly looks to be a little bit early in doing so, but they are going to pit for soft tires. Yeah, they're very early on their switch to the softer compound, considering they were 6 laps newer compared to the rest of the field, who are only coming in around 15 laps of running. An interesting strategy to be sure, and yet with the amount of pace that they had on the rest of the field, they are only in second place now, and they still have a decent gap to third and fourth. Just goes to show the brilliant level of driving we've seen from the Silver Arrows thus far. Say a few drivers going on to pit for the softs. You know, certainly a lot of variations in tire strategies. It's definitely exciting to see. Don't go anywhere. We could be seeing a very interesting climax to round 5 here in Azerbaijan. Here we go. So I'm going to quickly check in here with Morwell as they go down and get prepped for the castle section. It's going to be Joshua. They're going to be on the attack for, both on fresh softs, both in the same position on tyre wear, keeping it clean through the castle section. It's going to be very solid runnings from both drivers. All needs to do at this stage is try and keep that gap as close as they can so that they can get the DRS on the AlphaTauri come start finish and potentially make a move. But here we go, we can see, so trying to tee up a move. Looks like they've got a pretty good run. That gap is closing slowly. And slowly reeling them in, and as we come into the DRS zone, the flap is open, the throttle is open, and the position is open for the taking. The AlphaTauri doing very little to defend. They don't really have a choice in the matter except yield and hope that they can get the retake on the next corner. We're going to hop in with them now. So hopping a little bit of the curb, getting a little bit too much on the inside there, but it's going to be a retake. We're going to see the AlphaTauri is not going to let that position go lightly. Moore is going to hold the inside. It's going to be contact going through turn 3. Are we potentially looking at some damage between the two drivers? It's going to be a very fierce fight going through. And as we head to the castle section, are we going to see any bravado moves? Doesn't look like that gap is getting any smaller. Moore, though, doing very well to keep a consistent 3/10 on the AlphaTauri, who was really trying. You can see them pushing the track limits and absolutely maximizing where they're placing their car. You can see they're doing everything in their power to just get the gap, try and gap the Aston Martin so that they can't go for a DRS move down the start finish of lap 20. But as we see here, we're going to start seeing a lot of the drivers put on their final compounds in some cases. Interestingly though, if we take a look, Jasper, who is coming across the start-finish straight now, is not going to be pitting just yet. They're really stretching out those medium tyres. We're on 17 laps now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some real ragged edge running. Amir is going to set a 140 flat in the soft compound of tyre, doing brilliantly to just maximize the pace on those softer compounds. And a lot of the drivers here are really going for a final push in essence. What we're seeing is and if we look, we've got a bit of a drag race going on between, again, a brother and sister team fight. It's going to be LTB versus Liam. Liam is going to make the move with the tire advantage, with the DRS advantage. Although they're running very low on energy, the resource management isn't quite there. They've got a few laps to eke out thus far, but they have to be very careful. If they run out of ERS, they're going to be in a very difficult position. Really see them just trying to maximize the recovery, the regeneration of that battery. But thus far are managing it relatively well. But here we go, we check back in with our fight around the mid-pack. They're going to be Morwell and Joshua continuing to battle it out. That gap has grown to 8/10 now. And that'll certainly be a big battle to pick up on later. But we're going to quickly switch over to Emir. On the soft compound, is going to have a massive advantage over Jasper. Are they going to go for the pit? They are not going to go and pit. Emir is going to break the 140s barrier in race trim with a 139.912. And what a way to finish that whole sequence off than with a clean DRS overtake on the Red Bull. And I think that we are seeing pretty exciting racing going on here. Even with the DRS, the Red Bull is just, it's been gapped too far. They can only really keep pace with it so much before their ailing 18-lap mediums are going to fail them. They can't push too hard. Though interestingly, Cass was on the hard compound, but they're now going to switch over to the soft. What we would have seen potentially as a hard compound running till the end of the race, they're instead ditching that, switching to the softs, and may potentially be looking at making up some time. But with the gap, with the deficit between themselves and Frederick and then to Morwell, I don't know if we're going to see many changes in position from the Aston Martin here today. And of course, bad luck in qualifying is not doing them any favours by any stretch. But we're going to check, speaking of Aston Martin, we're going to check in once again on the fight between Morwell and Joshua. The gap has shrunk by a couple tenths since the last time we checked in on them, but it's not within the contention like we saw before, where we were seeing retakes left, right and centre of the battle for 5th place. The gap is flexing, say, between 6 and 8 tenths, which is generally, it's going to be close unless we see a little bit of bravery going in. But what has happened to LTB? They have again lost it in the castle section. They have potentially binned it into the wall. Have we seen any damage? Are we seeing any damage on that Red Bull? Looks like not. Maybe it looks like they just lost a little bit of control. We check in now with the Aston Martin as they're going to be trying to charge. It's not going to happen. But they have a second shot. They have the DRS. They're 3 tenths within. Joshua looking to get a little bit shaken up. They didn't really get the best exit. They didn't power out. And that is going to be the Aston Martin's opportunity. They're going to go side by side once again, heading into turn 3. They're going to head the AlphaTauri is going to hold the inside. It's going to be contact back and forth between the two drivers. They're going 2 abreast. Big contact made, although the wall has not hit. Big contact between the Aston Martin and the AlphaTauri. In the end, Morwell is going to yield. It's going to be a punt, though. It's going to be Joshua getting a little bit loose. They're going to bump. You're going to get a bit of a bump from Morwell there. Although, that being said, looks like the move is done. Joshua has sufficiently defended their position. But Adam is... not Adam. Whoa, what has happened to Yes Lad there? Big incident. Almost completely ended the race as the drivers ahead of them. Surely would have spooked them, that's for sure. But we saw what looked to be them losing control at the castle section. So what we were previously saying is a pretty quiet race is now claimed a lot of cars in that section in particular, just losing control and not being able to get the good line. And we see a binning of the Red Bull of none other than, if we take a look, no, in fact it is a not Jasper, but LTB has DNF'd. They are not going to finish the race here. They are going to be in 12th place for this race. And we potentially see them pull off track out of the way of the other competitors. Not really sure what happened, but always shame to see a driver retire. Yellow flag's out the way now. We're back to regular running. But we're going to quickly just check in now on none other than the McLaren of Jeremy, who is, while they are a couple of seconds behind the Red Bull, they have a chance here. Jasper is going to have to pit on those mediums very soon. They are crossing the 20 lap mark. They're really stretching out that compounded tyre. And we might potentially see, with a much fresher medium, we might see the McLaren making up that gap. And we can already see it. So we've got the gap shrinking from 2 seconds to around 1.5, and we haven't even got to the back straight yet, so the higher speed corners. That gap is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. That's Jeremy's position to take. It's going to be very close. Are we going to see this late in the race though? Can Jasper afford to pit, or are they going to make a gamble? Are they going to try and eke out those mediums to the end of the race? They're in a very risky position. Not sure what they're going to do. 23 laps on the medium. They're not going to pit. I think we're seeing a 23 lap stint on the mediums. You can see how visually worn those tyres are. This is a battle of attrition for the Red Bull driver. Their mission at this point, not to go the fastest, but to simply see their tyres to the end. They're going to be a hair's breadth from delamination if they are not careful. And they also have an upcoming threat to contend with. Jeremy is closing in fast. Their mediums are 12 laps fresher, and that is definitely showing. That pace is worlds apart. That gap has quickly grown, or shrunk even, from 2 seconds to 1.5 to 0.8 to now just half a second in the space of just over a lap. Their pace deficit is really on display here. And as we head through the castle section, we can see that Jeremy is potentially looking to make a move into Sector 3 of the track. Might potentially see a McLaren taking second place from the Red Bull, which is currently just trying to nurse its aging mediums all the way home. Certainly an insane, very different strategy. They're almost running the entire race on the yellow compound. A very different strategy to what we otherwise may have seen. But here we go. So this is the McLaren potentially teeing up a move. They got a good run on the Red Bull. DRS is about to kick in, seal the move. We go across the 200-mile-an-hour mark. The flap is open. The door is closed on the Red Bull, and that is 22 laps on mediums. We are really seeing that kind of stint. Let's hope that their strategy pays dividends to them in the long run. Despite their ailing pace at this point, even with the DRS, it's not going to even make a dent in that gap. The deficit from the compound is just going to be too large for them to make really any difference. And if we check in with Jasper here, you can just see how much slower they're having to take these corners, especially the lower speed ones. They're having to ease off a lot more, ease off a lot earlier, in order to not overstress the tyres and not exceed the rapidly waning level of grip that they have. The one interestingly we want to catch up with is Cass. In the Aston Martin here, they've been pushing with the softs and going for a very short but a big gamble by going for the red compound right at the end of the race, try and make up some positions. They have done very well to catch up to Yeslide up until this stage, Amir's going to get a brief 3-second penalty for tracks. But as we see, oh, what has happened? Frederick has lost it in the castle section. What was previously a very good charge for them, they have now lost it in the castle section. That's not what you want to see. They were doing very well to try and regain positions, and in fact were chasing down the Aston Martin, trying to keep that gap smaller, but it's not happened. And you can see they're locked up there. They're really not in a good way. I think we're seeing some after effects of damage there. You can see, yep, front wing completely missing, grip not there. They're running real wide. They're gonna have to limp that car home or potentially pit. Where does the gamble? Where does the line lie for the Mercedes? Let's see what they're going to do. You can see a move between Yeslad and Kaz is happening. What are they going to do? Yep, they're going to have to go in and get their front wing replaced, even though it's the end of the race. It's nearly the very end. They're still going to have to make that move. We'll be checking quickly with Yeslad. They have lost the move. They lost the position since to Cass. I see, very good driver from the Aston Martin, really maximising those soft compounds and getting a 5th and 6th finish, a 3rd row finish for both of the Aston Martins, it looks like. So very good driving there. We'll briefly check on the ailing Red Bull, barely scratching through on those 23 lap old mediums, but they've managed to bring the car home, even by the skin of their teeth. They've brought the car home, but the standout winner here once again show no relenting in their dominance in the Invictus Racing League. It is going to be Amir in the Mercedes in the Silver Arrows. What a brilliant performance here, going to the soft tyre relatively early on the medium's life, but really making full use of the softs. Brilliant tyre strategy. They looked like they had a really clean setup. What a win. This is the 4th win in the row for Amir here, doing an amazing job, and that is going to be another podium. And as we see the rest of the drivers rolling in on the timesheet now, what a race it has been. So no safety cars, but still no shortage of drama here in Azerbaijan. That is for certain. While the going got tough for some drivers, and some drivers got with what we call unorthodox strategies, there was still some amazing racing to be had here on track today. So Adam limping to the finish, 20 lap old mediums, losing it a little bit in the castle section, but still bringing the car home. An admirable performance by all drivers involved here. Really, the standout strategy here had to be Jasper. 24 laps on the mediums. They almost ran the entire race on that compound. It almost seems insane when you look at it. However, that was a brilliant job of tyre management there by the Red Bull, managing to nurse it all the way back home. And that is P1 for the Mercedes of Amir once again. The teammate not quite making it. So the teammates had a little bit of a bigger struggle. Cass getting driver of the day for their brilliant surge from the back of the field to around the mid-pack. And there we are. That is going to be another win for Mercedes here today. And there we are to take a look at our standings here today. We have Amir with not only the fastest lap, but another podium here in Azerbaijan. Let's say taking first place. Following that, Jeremy doing very well in the McLaren, scoring second, and Jasper nursing their Red Bull home to a third place. Brilliant showing of strategy and variance in pace here today. Following that, AlphaTauri, Joshua, Morwell, and Cass in the Aston Martins, Alfa Romeo of Yes Lad, Cameron in the McLaren, Liam in the AlphaTauri, Frederick getting a little bit shaken up in the second Mercedes, not having the best race for themselves, followed by Adam and then Jelly and LTB DNFing in the Red Bull and Alpine respectively. But what a race this has been, folks. What a race this has been. I genuinely have to say that even though there was a relative lack of drama on the track in terms of safety cars, this probably was one of the most exciting races yet. So, with that all being said, let's take a look at where we are heading to next. We had a very exciting round here in Azerbaijan, say the Baku Street Circuit. Next time, next week, be sure to catch us there, because we are heading back to Abu Dhabi for round 6 of the 14th season of Invictus Racing League. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our sponsors, our partners, such as GT Omega, Grid Finder, all very good and great people to work with, and certainly pushing the racing scene forward. But in terms of racing, that is going to be all from us this evening at the IRL. I have been your commentator, Sappytron, as always. It's been a pleasure commentating, casting for you in the commentary box here this evening. Be sure to catch us next week in Abu Dhabi, and for now, we will see you next time. Take care, and we'll see you then.